Hurricane Beryl has rapidly intensified into an extremely dangerous Category 4 major hurricane as it barrels towards the Windward Islands. In this video, we'll be looking at the latest information on Beryl and possibly another tropical system behind it headed in the same direction. But first, if you're new here, please be sure to hit the subscribe button for more tropical weather updates. So, this is kind of a satellite image of Hurricane Beryl as it's barreling towards the Windward Islands. It looks like a pretty intense hurricane, except the intensity may have leveled off. Right now it's 130 miles an hour, and the pressure is down to 958 millibars. It's moving west-northwest at 18 miles per hour. And then we also have a Tropical Depression 3. This could become Tropical Storm Chris, but it's not going to really do anything. It's just a very weak tropical storm moving towards the coast of Mexico. But Hurricane Beryl is expected to be a extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane when it reaches the Windward Islands basically tomorrow morning, so early on Monday, July 1st. And this is a very dangerous situation, and residents in these areas should listen to local government and emergency management officials for any preparedness and or evacuation orders. All preparations should be rushed to completion today. That's the key messages for Hurricane Beryl from the NHC. And, it talks about the, extreme winds, storm surge, and waves that are expected across the islands, and also heavy rain and some flooding. And it'll also stay a hurricane in the Caribbean. Now, there's more uncertainty with that, but it's still probably a powerful system, and it could go close to Jamaica, and this is, the cone is definitely showing, where this system is expected to go, and the intensity estimates have kind of leveled off at around 130 miles an hour, and there could be potentially an eyewall replacement cycle happening that, that could keep it from intensifying further. It could even weaken a little bit. We'll see. But apparently, this is supposed to be at 145 miles an hour, possibly, maybe close to 150, as some of the models were showing that potentially as it goes towards these islands, and it really looks like it'll hit near. Basically, St. Vincent and the Grenadines will probably get the strongest winds, but also Grenada could really also get the southern eye wall of the hurricane. But there are actually hurricane warnings in place all the way from, Grenada, Barbados, all the way up across, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia. Tropical storm watch goes all the way up to Dominica, and then what's supposed to happen is then this goes into the Caribbean, and it could actually weaken, apparently. Basically, this, really, it's going to hit the islands in about, 12 hours or so, and then after that, when it goes in the Caribbean, there could even be more shear, and that could be a problem for the system. But it looks like it's either going to hit Jamaica or come really close to Jamaica, go just south of Jamaica, and then it could hit the Yucatan. It really looks like it's going to hit the Yucatan, and then, that's what a lot of the models are showing, and then it goes into the Gulf, potentially. It could hit Mexico, it could hit Texas, maybe Louisiana. That's a lot more uncertain, but, what's super certain is that it's coming straight for the Windward Islands, especially St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as a Category 4 hurricane. And this is what kind of some of the model guidance shows. It actually shows that it could level off, or it could strengthen a little more through the next 24 hours as it goes past those islands, or it could level off and start coming down. But it does look like after about 36 hours, it'll start getting into some of the more unfavorable conditions, potentially in the Caribbean, and then it could either, like some of the models are showing it leveling off, but now a lot of the models are showing it goes down, and by about 5 days, it could be a tropical storm, So especially if it hits the Yucatan, that'll definitely weaken it down significantly. And these are the Euro ensemble tracks. It's showing, a major hurricane all the way out through the next potentially 2 to 3 days, and then there's more uncertainty, but it could definitely weaken down and then go over the Yucatan, maybe into the Gulf, and turn around towards Mexico, Texas, or Louisiana. That's what it kind of looks like. And then we also have another system behind it, behind Beryl, going in the same direction. Going straight towards the Windward Islands again. And this one could potentially become a tropical storm. Some of the models at one point were showing a Cat 2 or Cat 3, maybe even a Cat 4, but now it really looks like maybe just a tropical storm. This system is a lot more uncertain, but it could be another system going to the same place. And a lot of the ensembles show just a tropical storm, and then a couple are showing it intensifies as it gets closer to the Gulf. We'll see what happens there, but really looks like a weaker storm, but in the same place. This is the H-Wharf model, kind of showing the winds on Beryl, and it shows pretty much a Category 4 hurricane winds of about 130 to 140 miles an hour going over St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Like, pretty much Barbados, they are under a hurricane warning, but it looks like more tropical storm force winds, probably 40 to 50, maybe 60 miles an hour, depending on the exact path of this system. But it looks like it'll go south of Barbados, and then St. Vincent and the Grenadines really getting the maximum winds, possibly, 115 to 140 miles an hour, depending on where you exactly are. And then also hurricane force winds over Grenada, possibly. And then this goes out through the Caribbean, and then it gets sort of close to Haiti, where they do have a tropical storm watch in place there. And then it goes really close to Jamaica, apparently, and this could bring winds close to hurricane force. Even if it, misses Jamaica, definitely very strong winds and rain, from this storm. And then the H-Wharf model is showing it intensifies and actually stays pretty intense, even intensifying more as it approaches the Yucatan, and then it weakens more significantly after it hits the Yucatan in about 5 days. And then the simulated satellite imagery is shows a really powerful hurricane pretty much all the way through, except after when it goes over the Yucatan. But over the next 3 days, a really intense hurricane. The HAFS A model actually shows maybe 150 miles an hour as it goes south of Barbados, but then also it gets closer to Grenada in this model, but winds probably 145 miles an hour at this point, even potentially getting up to a Category 5 hurricane just as it leaves the islands, later on July 1st, Monday afternoon, could become a Category 5 hurricane, potentially, or close to it. Winds of 155 to 160 miles an hour. And then stays intense, but then it really starts weakening down as it gets closer to Jamaica, and you could even only have a 70 mile an hour tropical storm on this model. But it does go south of Jamaica and does not hit it, but then could actually strengthen again a little bit, but it kind of goes up and down, but then just pretty much a tropical storm, and then not much left after it goes past the Yucatan. The HAFS B model kind of shows same thing, but even stronger, 145 knots, which is 165 miles an hour, going over St. Vincent and the Grenadines, especially these islands further south, because, I guess the Grenadines right here, and then even Grenada getting, extreme winds. There's definitely going to be extreme winds from this would be pretty much 11 a.m. on July 1st is when the worst conditions are probably going to be over St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and then across these islands, and then these winds could be 165 miles an hour. That's a Category 5 hurricane. That would cause extreme catastrophic. That would bring catastrophic winds if that were to happen. Because even the wind gusts will be even higher, possibly approaching 200 miles an hour in this scenario. And then it stays a powerful hurricane, major hurricane, until it gets closer to Jamaica again, and then it really weakens down. Also, possibly a Category 1 hurricane or a tropical storm before it starts strengthening again, before it slams into the Yucatan, and then pretty much goes away. Now, the thing is that with the system behind Beryl, this is Invest 96, this could be Debbie if Chris forms from the Tropical Depression 3 over in the southern Gulf of Mexico. This storm, according to the newest HWRF, is showing a much smaller system and a much weaker system going over the islands. Strong tropical storm. Possibly it turns into a hurricane, but then it starts to really weaken down again. And this is only in the next 5 days. And then the half-A is kind of similar thing. It's showing pretty much July 3rd. So you get July 1st, Beryl hits. July 3rd, kind of this other system hits if it really strengthens into anything. But then, possibly a Cat 1 hurricane going towards Haiti, but then it probably starts weakening down again. And then the half B doesn't even show much of anything with this Invest 96 at all. Like the NHC, they actually have the 7-day tropical weather outlook. It's a 40% chance of forming in the next 48 hours and a 70% chance in 7 days. And so this, they're saying by the middle of this week, something could form from that. We'll see, how strong it gets. Now the GFS is showing pretty much, Beryl goes through, GFS takes it right over Jamaica, then it weakens down significantly, doesn't really re-intensify over the Gulf, and then it also takes this Invest 96 over the islands too, and then it actually doesn't really intensify that much at all. Maybe a weak tropical storm, and then it goes down into the Gulf and doesn't really do much of anything there either. The Euro is a bit different. The Euro shows that this really goes through it. It also hits Jamaica pretty much, and then it goes over the Yucatan, and then it goes kind of into the east coast of Mexico. But the thing is, it doesn't show anything with that 96. So that's interesting. It actually doesn't really show anything with that. And then the CMC model shows kind of this storm kind of Beryl really, hits Jamaica, and then it goes all the way over to Texas, as potentially a hurricane. And then this Invest 96 is still not really much of anything until it gets further west in the Caribbean, and then it intensifies a little bit and then hits Central America. So Invest 96, we'll see what happens with that, but definitely Hurricane Beryl is the big storm to definitely pay attention to. And this is the HAFS V model. It actually shows it really getting into a very favorable environment as it goes further west towards the Yucatan. That's what this is showing, because it doesn't even show it strengthening that much. So this is not actually showing the system accurately over the next 3 days or so. The HWRF parent model with this year is actually more accurate. You have pretty favorable over the next, 2 or 3 days. Even it's showing it actually gets more favorable and possibly intensifies more as it goes further west in the Caribbean. That's different. That's probably not going to happen, but it does show a very, favorable shear pattern through the whole entire 5 days, which is probably not going to happen. And also, a problem with the second system is that you have a lot of Saharan dust, like, really thick Saharan dust coming down, behind Beryl and in front of this Invest 96. The dust really isn't a problem for Beryl, but then now it's apparently going to be a huge problem coming down on 96. And the halves be kind of showing, let's actually, the H-Wharf parent model is showing that yeah, there's a lot of moisture for Hurricane Beryl, but then that other system, there's a bunch of dry air in front of this other system, the Invest 96, and then, that and the shear really doesn't do much of anything for that Invest 96 system. And this is kind of, yeah, really the shear is just tearing this other system, tearing it up, and it won't really do anything. That's kind of what's happening in the Atlantic. But also the Eastern Pacific is actually could start getting active. This is the NHC has nothing in 48 hours, but it has a 40% chance of something in 7 days. And this is the GFS kind of showing potentially a weak, tropical storm off the coast of Mexico by, pretty much by July 4th. So we'll see if that does anything. It's, pretty weak system. It's not going to really impact land or anything, but, that would be the first named storm, if it even becomes a tropical storm. That would be the first storm in the Eastern Pacific, which is, pretty late to see this happening. Like, in the Atlantic, we're having, an unprecedented situation with Hurricane Beryl rapidly intensifying into a Cat 4 hurricane, which is, unprecedented. This is basically the strongest hurricane in June that ever recorded pretty much in the Atlantic. And then you have, in the Eastern Pacific, no activity, and this is the latest start to an Eastern Pacific hurricane season, because it's pretty much at 0, which is the least active Eastern Pacific hurricane season on record, while you have the Atlantic is quickly rising, where you have this is like the second most accumulated cyclone energy behind 2020, and there's other seasons that were ahead of this at the beginning of the season, but this is already the 14th most active. Like, we didn't really have much activity just a couple weeks ago. Now we're already the 14th most active out of 74 hurricane seasons. And this hurricane season is expected to be hyperactive, of course, and we're starting to see that. Thanks for watching this video. Please be sure to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more tropical weather updates. Extreme Weather Zone, out.